All glory and praise be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and peace be upon Muhammad, the messenger of Allah. Most respected, revered Chief Mentor and Secretary and Correspondent of Islamia Women's College, Ali Janab Si Khaisar Ahmed Sahib, revered Secretary and Correspondent of this institution, the very dynamic and pragmatic personality, Dr. L.M. Munir Ahmed Sahib, respected Principal T. Muhammad Ilyas Sir, Head of the Department of History, my esteemed friend, Professor Abul Fazil, esteemed friend, Professor Sandana Krishnan, esteemed members of the management like Dr. Mr. Akbar Zahid Saab, Nareem Saab, Vice Principal, dear professors, Professor Liaquat Ali, the member syndicate, the former head of the department, Professor Saifullah, and other friends who have come here, and dear students. At the outset, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the authorities of this college and also to the Department of History for having given me a chance to stand before my fellow teachers and students and to give a short presentation on the role of Fakirs in the freedom struggle. As it is rightly pointed out by our Chief Mentor, Janab Khaisar Ahmed Sahib, in his remarks, this presentation is nothing but a summary of what I have prepared for a very mega gathering at Jamal Muhammad College, Trichy, which I delivered on 22nd June last month. A very big gathering of 1,500 dignitaries across the country assembled there, and the program started at 9 o'clock in the morning and it went on till 11 o'clock in the evening. Continuous program, large number of speakers and historians, the ulama, even the politicians, all were there. I had the privilege to give this presentation in the presence of dignitaries like Veeramani, the head of the Dravida Kazhagam, Mr. Siva, the MP of Trichy, then other dignitaries, politicians were there. So, as he said, when I gave this presentation, Veeramani asked me to give it writing so that this can be published in the form of a book, because this part of history is all completely neglected. Fakirs in freedom struggle. If you take up this topic, you cannot find even few sentences in the history books. Even the reputed history books, you may not find much information. Dr. Tara Chand has written 4 volumes on Indian national movement. In the second volume, in second chapter, she has mentioned a small paragraph about the Fakirs. Except that, you cannot find much information about this. But at the same time, if you go through the secret sundries, the British records, secret sundries, secret consultations, volume 2, 3 and 4, and district collectorate records, private confidential papers, and the reports given by the magistrates, commanders to the governor at that time, you can find a lot of information about the great sacrifices made by the Fakirs in the freedom struggle. As again it is rightly pointed out by our Khaisar Saab, that this struggle started in 1774. Generally, we take up 1857, the rebellion of 1857, and we claim it as the first war of independence. Of course, we say that it is the first war of independence, but the British people, with a view to undermine the significance, they call it just a Sepoy mutiny. But we have got clear evidences that it was a national movement. It was a movement against the British. And if you go back further, you can find that in 1806, there was a mutiny at Vellore. The Vellore mutiny was also aimed at the termination of the British Raj. overthrow of the British people. Similarly, the various, Palekars rose against the British people and they started the rebellion, like Veerapandiya Kattabomman. Similarly, you can take up the kings, the people like Tipu Sultan, they sacrificed their lives for the sake of this country. See, at the Fourth Carnatic War, the British gave an offer. Tipu Sultan, you just accept our allegiance, you accept our suzerainty, political supremacy, and we will allow you to continue as a king. But Tipu Sultan said that it is better to live like a lion even for one day than a jackal for 100 years. I am prepared to fight against you and even die for the sake of the country, and I do not want to live in humiliation. Such heroes we find. In this context, recently we find there is a trend that only a group of people are highlighted in history and distortions have been taking place. There is a different story, I don't want to go to that. But as far as the contribution of the Muslims to this country, the great sacrifices they have made for the elimination of the British Raj, for getting freedom to this country, they have all been suppressed, sidelined and even distorted. And certain facts are not brought to light, They are just ignored as some insurrection. The word insurrection is used, a mutiny, a rebellion, something like that. But if you go through the details, you will be amazed to know that they have given their lives for the sake of the freedom of this country. And in this context, I would like to draw your attention on only one aspect, that is role of fakirs in freedom struggle. The word fakir, what do you mean by the word fakir? Saints, religious mendicants, ascetics, sannyasis, these are the interpretations we have. But in the Islamic concept, I was just referring this to our cases of also, fakirs, the fakir is a word, Arabic word, and you've got references in Quran, chapter number 47, verses number 38. Chapter number 47, verses number 38, very clearly says, Allahu ghaniyun wa antumul fuqra. God alone is the person, God alone, He has no needs. He is free of all needs, free of all wants. God alone is free of all wants. All others, all people are needy. They are all needy. We are in need of the blessings of the Almighty. And we have to depend only on Almighty. Fakir, plural form is fuqra. And Prophet Muhammad used to say that I am very proud to be a fakir. Al-fuqra fakhri. What does he mean? He says that I feel proud of being a fakir, needy person, needy of Allah's blessings. We are all in need of Allah's blessings. But in the Indian history, we can find that a group of people who dedicated themselves for the preaching of Islam, for carrying the message in every corner of the country, came forward. And in course of time, they became a kind of groups. They are called fakirs. They used to go door by door with an instrument called tabus, and they will sing songs. They used to carry the message of Tawheed and Risalat to the common people. They go door by door, they will praise the glory of Allah, they will praise the significance of the message of Islam, about Prophet Muhammad, and so on. But during the 18th century, there was a need of these fakirs for freedom movement. There was a need. It was a need of the hour. Why? Because these people were very bold and courageous, number one. They are not ordinary people who can come take up this profession. They should be bold and courageous. They must be prepared to sacrifice their lives. They are not after material welfare. They are not after material welfare. They go from place to place, and during the night time they will stay in some mosque, in some place, and they are not worried about their families and all. These people, in course of time, were trained in the art of propaganda. Basically, their theme was disseminating the message of Islam. Spread the message of Islam. But in course of time, from the 18th century onwards, they assumed a new responsibility of creating an awareness among the people about the socio-economic developments about the socio-economic developments, the current affairs. These things are brought to the notice of the public. These faqirs made use of several good occasions like Urs, when celebrations of the holy saints were arranged as Urs, Kanduri, etc. These people used to go there. And they started singing songs and doing some magical things, organizing puppet shows. And as a result of that, the people who came to these Urs celebrations used to assemble before them. And by doing this magic show, they communicated the message which they wanted to do to the public. And that spread like a wildfire among the public. And this was the need of the hour, because during the 18th century, we did not have newspapers to communicate, no communication facilities, and no transportation facilities, and the method of organizing public meetings to communicate the message to the public. These things were not there. This was the medium of communication of the message to the people. And these people went to the villages, they met the people, and while they were praising the glory of Allah and Prophet Muhammad, they were communicating all these messages. And when they were trained in this art, they were utilized for this freedom struggle. And now, Muslim faqirs in India were all of indigenous origin. They, in course of time, they were divided into groups. Each group was identified with a title like Ali, Shah, Pirzada. Rahim Pirzada means he belongs to the Fakir group of Pirzada. Rahim Ali means he belongs to the group of Ali. Rahim Shah means Shah. Likewise Shah group, Ali group, likewise they started emerging into groups. And these groups were well trained in archery, in handling the sword, in fighting and all. And these people were also warriors. Faqirs were not just beggars or mendicants, they were warriors, and they were well versed in warfare. And in the 18th century, their services were utilized by the rulers of this country, irrespective of religion. And whenever they approached them for the service, they were ready to join the army and render the service. For example, the Raja of Jaipur had a large number of faqirs in his army. A separate faqir army was found in Oudh from 1752 to 1800. In 1764, faqirs were hired by Mir Qasim of Bengal. The Hindu Rajas, Muslim Nawabs, they all approached these faqirs because they were men of integrity first, very honesty, very confidential people, and they were very loyal, very sincere, and they have come forward to sacrifice their lives for the mission which they have taken up. And they were employed in the armies of Holkar, Sindhia, kings of Jaipur. To begin with, they were ready to join any group or rebel or insurgent who would hire them. But in course of time, they formed into smaller groups, carried on propaganda during the Urs and Kanduri celebrations. On other occasions, they moved to villages. They went door to door, campaigning for the cause which they had taken up. And they were similar to Hindu sannyasis. During the 18th century, the ascetics of the Hindu groups, they formed a separate group like faqirs. Just as the Muslims had faqirs, Hindus had sannyasis. The leader of the sannyasis was Bhavani Shah Bhavan. And the relations between the faqirs and the sannyasis was very cordial during the 18th century. Now, I would like to highlight just 4 or 5 points during the course of my lecture. Now, the first one is Fakir movement in Bengal was the first one to raise the standard of revolt, to raise the flag of revolt against the British people. In 1757, the Battle of Plassey took place. Within a short period, a band of fakirs started the rebellion against the British rule. Why they started the British rule? It's because the condition of Bengal at that time was very, very worse. The upper class were very much dejected because of the Anglicization of administration and substitution of British officials in the place of Muslim elites. Similarly, middle class suffered from the disbandment of the Nawab's army and the abolition of the the police, rural police, which deprived them of their job, employment, etc. The lower class suffered because they were thrown out of employment, destruction of textile industry in Bengal, all these things were there. The Muslim sentiments were shocked by the anti-Muslim ways of the foreigners and the activities of the Christian missionaries, overzealous of their government officials. So, Fakir movement in Bengal was the first one to raise the standard of revolt against the British authorities. Long before the Great Rebellion of 1857, 1806, even Tipu, we can find that the Fakirs were the first people to start a rebellion against the British people. The leader, the commander of this Fakir group was Majnu Shah. Our Secretary Sahab rightly pointed out, he was the leader. And the headquarters of these Fakirs was at Nepal Terai, particularly Markwanapur, south of Kathmandu. That was the headquarters. From there, these people moved to Bengal, and they belonged to a particular religious order called Mazaria sect among the Muslim. And they had very cordial relation with the sannyasis who belonged to the Saiba sect, and they were called Jajabar. These people were there, but the first rebellion was started by the Fakirs in Bengal. Though they were not properly organized, though did not have a systematic, well-organized army, etc., they were very successful in inspiring the oppressed peasants of Bengal with the ideal to fight for their independence, with the ideal to preserve their culture, safeguard their religion throughout Bengal and Bihar under the united leadership of Majru Shah and his lieutenant Musa Shah and Chirag Ali. Bhavani Patak, Devi Chaudhrani. Devi Chaudhrani is wrongly mentioned in some of the books as Devi Chaudhrani. It's not like Devi Chaudhrani. Kiripanath, Nur Muhammad, Pidambar. All these people extended their wholehearted support to Majnu Shah. Majnu Shah's role is very, very significant. It's because he was an organizer of great ability, a great commander-in-chief. He fought in the midst of very trying and difficult situations against the superior armed forces of the British people. He inflicted a crushing defeat. To the British armies led by Mackenzie in 1766. The first battle against the British people was fought in 1766, and Mackenzie's forces were terribly defeated by the army of the Fakirs. In another battle, he defeated Commander Keith and killed him in 1766 December. In 1777, Majnu Shah fought against Lieutenant Taylor, but the situation was very difficult. He got escaped from the army, entrenched himself in the fortresses at Mahashatangar. There he slipped to Bihar to organize the discontented peasantry and artisans. He sent an urgent appeal at the time. He sent an urgent appeal to Rani Bhavani of Natur, but Rani Bhavani did not respond to the appeal. Had Rani Bhavani of Natur accepted his appeal, responded to the appeal and sent the forces, he could have crushed the British people in Bengal there itself, and the British Raj would have come to an end. But unfortunately, Rani Bhavani of Natur did not come forward to extend her support for the common cause to drive the British people. On 14th November 1776, Majnu Shah again reorganized the group, inflicted a crushing defeat on the English army. In this battle, hundreds of Englishmen were killed. Lieutenant Robertson was badly injured. Unfortunately, there was some dissension in the group. And the sannyasis withdrew. It posed a great problem to the Fakirs, especially Majnu Shah. He strove hard to patch up the differences. He moved throughout North Bengal from Pune to Jabalpur for regrouping his army. On 29th December 1786, Majnu Shah suddenly reappeared at the village called Mangura in the Bogra district of Bengal, and surprisingly he attacked Lieutenant Bernard's army. But in this battle, Majnu Shah was very seriously injured. He tried to escape with a open sword kept on his horse, but he succumbed to the injury and he died in a place called Baknapur. So from 1766 to 1787, for 10 years, a protracted struggle was carried on by the fakirs in Bengal. And in 1787, at Batnapur, Majuro Shah died. Immediately after his death, his lieutenants, Chirag Ali, then Musa Shah, and other followers marched to the districts of Bengal in 1789. They reorganized the whole group. They operated in concert, secrecy, in other freedom fighters. Bhavani Pathak, Devi Chaudhrani, woman leader, they all gave the support and they attacked British factories. They gave a lot of trouble to the British people. They seized and captured the British goods and cash. Even the arms and ammunition of the British people were completely smashed. They acquired much strength and their number increased. At that time, the Pathans, Rajputs, and disbanded sepoys all joined together and they extended the support to the Fakir movement. And this Fakir movement was supported by the public. The public people, they gave arms, they gave money, they gave all kind of support so that the British Raj could be terminated. From 1793 to 1800, the second phase of this Fakir movement in Bengal continued. There were skirmishes, wars with the company's troops and menacing the collection of revenue, but the government had well-organized army, but these people were scattered, they were not well-organized. So at that time the British people understood the situation of India. They started the policy of divide and rule. They met the sannyasi rulers and sannyasi group and they said, you are all Hindus, they are Muslims. This kind of venom was injected in the minds of the Hindu leaders. That's why there were dissensions between sannyasis and the fakirs. And at the time, they entered even into a treaty with Maharaja of Nepal. And Maharaja of Nepal came forward to support the British people. You see, Maharaja of Nepal supported the British people and he promulgated a series of ordinances extending regulations. As a result of the support which they got from the Maharaja of Nepal and also the withdrawal of the support from the sannyasis, Fakir army could not do much. That's why they stealthily went to a forest at Bogra district in Bengal. They started getting training, reorganizing groups, and everything was going on. Somehow the information was communicated to the British troops and all of a sudden they came and seized the whole troops in the Bogra forest and 150 fakirs were killed by the British people in 1800. See, they sacrificed their life for the sake of the country. In spite of its failure, the revolt of the fakirs and sannyasis left an indelible print upon the future struggle for freedom struggle during the 19th and 20th centuries. And these fakirs supported the Wahhabis. Wahhabis also revolted against the British people. You may be aware of this Wahhabi movement. And they extended support to the revolutionaries. There is one second thing. The other important point which I would like to highlight is that these fakirs functioned as emissaries. What do you mean by the emissary word? Sepoys, secret agents, spies, secret sepoys, spies collecting information. Their services were hired to instigate the army and the people in general in South. Holkar was the central person. He sent thousands of fakirs as emissaries throughout South India. He sent them in large number to South India, particularly to Bangalore, Nandidurg, Palayamkottai, Trichy, Kanjipuram and other places. The French people also hired their services because the entire motive was to terminate the British Raj. And their intrigues were also very active. Tipu's princes, Tipu's sons also hired these fakirs as emissaries for the Mysore conspiracy which took place at Vellore, and they appointed them. Thousands of emissaries were dispatched to every cantonment area. Now they adopted a different technique. This is very important. They were approaching the public, getting the support. They started fighting against the British people. That it ended in failure. But now these fakirs entered into the cantonments, British cantonments. They approached the Indian soldiers in the British army. They went there as puppet showmen, as magicians, and as singers. They met these Indian soldiers in the British army. They hypnotized them. They told them about the necessity of terminating the British Raj. They said that the British people are here to convert both Hindus and Muslims to Christianity by force. Unless you terminate them, your culture is not safe, your religion is not safe. Like that, these people started persuading and convincing the British troops. And that was done very stealthily, very secretly. And they were so efficient in maintaining the secrecy. In league with Holkar, they started this movement. They appeared on the puppet showmen in Bangalore. These people came here, prepared the public, and also prepared the native soldiers in the British army in favor of this movement, and this entire situation was ripe. The Fakirs were very efficient in maintaining the secrecy. I will give you two examples. You can understand how efficient they were. Though they appeared to be as beggars, religious mendicants, wandering from one place to the other place, but they were very efficient in executing this, espionage, spy system. One example, on 10th July 1806, in Vellore, the mutiny broke out. The Vellore mutiny broke out on 10th July. Please remember that 10th July 1806, the mutiny broke out. At the midnight, on about 2 o'clock, the soldiers in the army, they came out, they fired at the European officers, and all the other things were there. And 113 Europeans were killed, 350 soldiers were seriously injured. Even the commander of the army at Vellore, Colonel Fencourt, was also shot dead. That took place on 10th July 1806. I am not going to the details of Vellore mutiny, but I am coming here to the point. On 9th July 1806, Colonel Fencourt wrote a letter to Governor of Madras Presidency, William Bentinck. In that letter, Colonel Fencourt stated very clearly that as far as Vellore cantonment is concerned, everything is fine. Everything is under my control. Law and order prevails. Peace prevails. There is nothing to worry about my cantonment. 9th, he wrote the letter. 10th, 11th morning, it was delivered to the Governor General. But on 10th, the same night, this Vellore mutiny broke out. Until then, the British officers could not sense the intrigues, the conspiracy, the preparation which was going on within their army. So secret the whole message was. That is one thing. Of course, there was one person by name Mustafa Beg. He was a traitor. He started telling the European officers, a conspiracy is going to take place. All the European soldiers would be killed by the Indian soldiers. Then immediately the officers called the native officers and asked him, what is going on? These people diplomatically said to the officers, he is a drunkard, he is fully intoxicated, and whatever he says, he is just blabbering out of his intoxication. That's how it was completely tackled. Fakirs could maintain the secrecy. Another important incident which is to be noted is that on 24th October 1806, an anonymous letter was dispatched. It was addressed to the commanding officer of the Bangalore cantonment, wherein it has been very clearly stated the abuses unfold to the British officers, serious charges against the company's rule, and it is also stated that 6 battalions stationed at Bangalore cantonment must help each other and put an end to all Europeans. And here the point is that if you take up the army of the British people at that time, majority of the sepoys were Indians, native sepoys. British officers were a small number. And if you all join together, you can kill the Europeans and you can put the end to this. And somehow that letter reached the officer. They got surprised. They wanted to find out the person who wrote the letter. So a proclamation was issued by the British people. Accordingly, 300 pagodas will be given as a reward to those who will communicate the author of this letter or the origin of this letter, something like that. But nothing, they could not find out anything. And such a secrecy was maintained by this. Fakirs travelled mostly from Sira, Kolar to Bangalore, and they carried on the propaganda among the native soldiers in the Bangalore cantonment. But they maintained secret communication with local polygars to get their immediate support in case of a revolution. Such a secrecy was maintained. This is another important thing. And as far as Vellore Beauty is concerned, you will be amazed to see that the Fakir emissaries proceeded from Bangalore to Vellore. They performed puppet shows, magic, drama, etc. The theme of the show was very clearly Muslims and the French joining together, driving the French. That was the theme of the drama. Abdullah Khan was the leader of this Fakir group. He directed all the Fakirs to organize this movement. Another local leader was Pirzada. He was the former associate of Tipu Sultan. These people came to the Vellore cantonment and they met the Havaldar and Subedar first, and they impressed about them about their magic shows. They performed various ceremonies, etc. And these religious mendicants, these Fakirs, actively worked to excite a spirit of discontent in the minds of the native soldiers and princes. Fakirs propagated their faith of religious sermons. They performed ceremonies in honor of those who fell martyr in their wars against the British people. Both Hindus and Muslims joined together the movement. Fakir emissaries travelled every corner of the country, propagating their plan to the sepais. They were encouraged because British officers did not interfere in the activities of the Fakirs. Because they were religious saints, religious people. If you interfere in the activities of the religious people, it will boomerang, it will have adverse effect. So the British people did not take cognizance of the activities of the Fakirs. And that was a positive factor for the Fakirs. They got encouraged, and the British people hesitated that any violation of the customs and practices of the faith of the natives would endanger their very existence, so they kept quiet. Fakir emissaries visited all army stations. First they visited army station, stayed for a considerable period of time, developed acquaintance with the native officers. Through them they contacted the sepais. They adopted different methods of sedition suitable to the mentality of the station. The main theme was the British wanted to convert. The theme which they propagated was the British wanted to convert Muslims and Hindus to Christianity by force. They narrated several stories to prove their arguments and to convey the sepais. They organized secret meetings, carried out vigorous propaganda. Nobody could trace the clues to the patterns or leaders of these Fakirs, directing them. Who is directing these Fakirs? From where they are getting fund? How they are? Nothing could be traced out. Such secrecy was maintained. They were fully trained for this purpose before they disposed of different stations. The secret activities of the Fakirs could not be identified or doubted even by the officials till the Vellore became ripe for rebellion. And here, as I already mentioned, the centers of activity of the Fakirs in 1800 to 1830 were Bangalore, Nandidurg, Palayamkotta, Bellary, Quillan, Madras, Trichy, Kanchipuram. And as far as there were three people, they were actually the leaders of the Fakirs, but the British people did not know that they were leaders of Fakirs. But they were the nightmare, their names was the nightmare. In Tamil you call it Simma Soppanam, nightmare to the British people. Those three names were Madar Ali Shah of Trichy. Madar Ali Shah was not an individual. Actually, he was the leader of a group, Shah group of the Fakirs. Similarly, Noor Ali Shah of Tanjore and Muhyiddin Shah of Madurai. These three people were a nightmare to the British people, but they could not identify who they are, from where they are coming. And as far as activities of Bangalore are concerned, on the Muharram day of 1806, a lamentation was sung by the Fakirs on the morning of Tipu Sultan. They were in the form of abuses, attacking the government, British government, government of Mysore, and the company's rule in India. These songs were composed and rendered for many days in all Indian languages. They highlighted how Mir Sadiq, Purnaya collaborated with the English before the departure of the British army on the fateful noon hour when Srinagarpatnam was stormed and Tipu was betrayed. You know the history of Purnaya and Mir Sadiq, I don't want to elaborate that. These songs were composed by a school teacher. Very melodious songs, very attractive songs, but the theme was lamenting about the death of Tipu Sultan, but at the same time conveying the message to create a kind of aversion against the British rule, discontentment against the British rule. They were inflammatory in nature and heaped filthy abuses of the English and Mysore government. They were publicly rendered in the streets on the Muharram day. In the month of August 1806, Nubi Shah, he was one of the peers of Tipu Sultan, a well-wisher of Tipu Sultan, a peer. He arranged a celebration in honor of Ataullah Shah, another departed Muslim saint of Bangalore. Muslim fakirs attended the celebration, and there was a strange behavior in the celebration. It was observed by even British Sipais who obtained permission to attend the celebration, but they could not identify much. How these Sipais were instigated by the fakirs to join the conspiracy is a very, very important point you must understand. They entered into the cantonments. Fakirs entered into the cantonments. They stayed in the cantonments for months together. They conducted the puppet shows, dramas, magic shows, etc. And during that time, they brainwashed all the native soldiers. Fakirs acted as puppet showmen, conducting a fight between the French and the English, in which the latter was seen running away. They conducted puppet shows for about a month. They collected 1 to 1.5 rupees. If you are a Subedar, you have to pay 1 rupee. If you are a Jamedar, you have to pay 1.5 rupees. They entered into their camp, they collected money from them, they conducted these shows, and at the same time, they brainwashed all the Indian soldiers working for the British people. Fakirs conducted the shows in the barracks of the 3rd Company twice. Once at Cotwell's Chowdhury, at the other time at the residence of Subedar and Jabedar. For the families of these Indian native soldiers and Subedars and Havaldars, they collect, every family has to pay 5 rupees each. Fakirs stayed there even a month after completing their programs. On such occasions, they carried on now consultations with the native officers through secret meetings. The native officers, one by one, came under the influence of the fakirs. The secret meetings were held at the residence of the native officers themselves. For the sake of unity and safety, they carried on deliberation under oath. First, they should pledge that they will not divulge anything. They would be loyal for this movement. And that how that oath was taken, a sword will be there, their sword. They have to kiss the sword and put a hand on the sword, and they should take the pledge. Under oath, this deliberations took place. They convinced that native soldiers are larger in number than the British officers and soldiers. Number one. Second thing, if you do not terminate their Raj, then what will happen? They will convert the whole Hindus and Muslims into Christianity. All these things took place before these turban regulations. Agnew's turban regulation was the immediate cause for the Sipahi immunity. That's how we are teaching. This preparation was going on long before the issue of this turban regulations and other orders, uniform, shaving their faces and all these things. And it was easy for them to destroy the British officers. The combined armies of Marathas, Hyderabad Nizam, they are also ready to join and defeat the British people. The Sipais were instigated and convinced the fakirs to join the conspiracy. The conspiracy was aged. All these developments took place, my dear friends, long before the mutiny of 1806 and the promulgation order of dress regulations. Thousands of fakirs spread all over the country, promoted this cause. 5 companies at Bangalore already had shown allegiance and support to start this conspiracy, and they came forward to fight. When Nandidurg rebellion started, they were ready to fire these British soldiers. The entire plan of conspiracy was traced only to Holkar camp, Nizam's brother, Tipu Sultan's sons. And as far as Palayangota is concerned, Fakirs adopted different methods. Apart from the general plan of meeting the Sepoys, gaining confidence to instigate them and killing the Europeans and rising rebellion, they circulated a ghost story. A ghost story was circulated. Sepoys were made to believe that a ghost was roaming around the fort of Palayangotai, around the court of Palayangotai. And that ghost was nothing but a ghost of a Muslim who was shot dead by the British people. To convince the Sepoys, one day they sprinkled, these Fakirs sprinkled blood at the church door inside the fort. Traces of blood were found leading to the graveyard. And on seeing this, there was a kind of apprehension, a kind of fear in the minds of the native soldiers. Company's rule was the real cause of such supernatural instances. And another method adopted was hoisting the flags at the mosques. In 1806, a rumor was circulated by the conspirators that 5 companies of the Europeans were on the way to convert all Sepoys into Christianity. It was actually a rumor. This was circulated by the Fakirs because they want to, come out of successful the conspiracy. On hearing this news, the native officers hoisted the flag at a mosque. The flag was of tricolor with dark blue on the green background, dotted with light yellow. It was made of satin cloth. Just 2 days before the Phellur mutiny, a similar green flag was hoisted. During the same time, numerous Fakirs poured into Palayangota. When new Fakirs are entering into Palayangota, the commander-in-chief of the garrison, the army of Palayangota, Major Wales, said that I saw a strange Fakir going on begging in the cantonment. His sight was very annoying and he demanded alms with a very haughty tone. The officer still did not have any suspicion on the existence of this mission. He was annoyed only with the presence of some Fakirs. But James Hepburn, all this information was known to the British people only after the outbreak of the mutiny, when they instituted a court of inquiry, and when they collected all the information, they came to all these things. James Hepburn, the collector of Tirunelveli, while deposing before the court, he said, court of inquiry, he said that the circumstances of ghost walk about the fort had agitated the minds of the Sepoys to a considerable degree. This was repeatedly the work of Fakir agency, which we came to know only after the outbreak of the mutiny of 1806, they are working against the British in the fort. Similarly, Mr. Fisher, another commander, had stated in his deposition that he had met Vellore fort, a Fakir, near the Travancore gate. He had abused all the Europeans at in the grossest worst manner. What was the British response to these activities when British government came to know about the active role of the Fakirs in different parts of the country? A circular was issued to all the army commanders, magistrates, district collectors and British officials, warning them on the dangerous consequences of the instigation of these Fakirs. Fakirs acted as emissaries, as warriors, as messengers. You must keep a way on them. A variety of information and anonymous letters continued to keep the idea of dangerous changes which would take place shortly. And here, the governor of the Madras at that time, Lord William Bentinck, had written. It is available in Secret Sundries, page 307, 71 to 72. 371, 72. From the extensive activity which had been practiced by the religious mendicants and other secret emissaries in all parts of the peninsula, in a very exciting spirit of the discontent among the native soldiers, we deem it proper to counteract such machinations as far as practicable by order which have been issued to the magistrates and other local authorities. Fakirs advise the native officers who were in charge of Palankote fort, that Tipu men, Nawab, French were ready to come. It would be ready well to kill the white people and join them. Secret letters were delivered to the conspirators. Now there was a slogan among the soldiers within the army of the British people: the days of disaster for the Europeans have arrived. Now we have to put an end to the rule of the British people. There was a common slogan of the Sepahis. G.H. Barlow, the Governor General of India, received reports from various parts about the activities of the Fakirs. He said that unlimited toleration was the main cause of such activities. He advised to counteract the efforts of these secret intrigues by taking due precaution against any improper interference with religious usages and traditions of the country. And here, apart from Mysore, then Palayam Kottai, Bangalore and Vellore, Kanjipuram was another place of headquarters for the Fakirs, from where they were trained and dispatched to different directions. Puppets were made only at Kanjipuram, and they were distributed to the Fakirs to the different parts of the country. Though Fakirs moved from place to place, they were in constant touch with their headquarters. British records point out the undoubted information we possess, the most artful endeavors that are making to corrupt the minds of the Sepahis. The army in every part of our territory requires of this government adoption of most rigorous measures to arrest their conspiracies and intrigues. It is founded that on the general voice from every part of the peninsula, and has been unfortunately confirmed by the success of the Nandyadurg rebellion and at other places which had accompanied the mechanism. From all parts we learn that Fakirs, these religious mendicants of religious order, professing Muslim faith, the order says Muslim faith, have been the principal agents of corrupting the minds of our soldiers. And it's a fact that which I have accepted. As a result of these Fakir agents in the south, the native troops were invariably acted more under the influence of apprehension. Fakir emissaries successfully propagated the plan of action and conspiracy. They industrially disseminated the inflammatory speeches, doctrines, and thousands of wicked and mischievous arts, endeavoring to convince them that Europeans were determined to erect a cross on the mosque and a pagodas on the Hindus. Thus, Fakirs scattered the seeds of sedition and revolt. Astrology, the date to be fixed, was called for to predict the downfall of the British. And here, I would like to point out that there was close connection because of this Fakir emissaries and messengers. There was a close connection established between different major powers of the period of the south. Holkar, then Maratha leader, Nizam of Hyderabad, and the surviving son of Tipu Sultan, all have agreed for a great conspiracy, for a great rebellion. The date was fixed 14th July 1806. The date, all this was going on, disseminating the message, preparing the soldiers, everything was going on. The date was fixed 14th July 1806. Had this Vellore mutiny not taken place on 10th July, had these soldiers waited till 14th July, they would have there would have been simultaneously rebellion in Hyderabad, in the Marathas, in Arcad, in Palayam in Bangalore, everywhere. When there was a rebellion everywhere, when all native soldiers and public joined together, the English soldiers were very small in number, the English officers who are very microscopic in number would have been easily killed and the British Raj would have come to an end. It is very unfortunate. It has been recorded by them themselves. They say in another report, had it not been for the premature insurrection at Vellore, troops at Walajabad, Madras, Trichy, Bangalore, Bellary would have risen together in concert with the troops at Hyderabad and Vellore, and that would have been the last day for the British people to go out of India. But unfortunately, 4 days before, on 10th night itself, the Vellore rebellion broke out. And it could not be communicated to Hyderabad and Mysore. And even then in Vellore, 350 soldiers were severely wounded, 150 Europeans were killed, and the commander himself was dead. But within few hours, there was no communication from the troop from, Arcad. It marched very immediately to Vellore and they suppressed the rebellion. And there is one important thing which I would like to highlight. And here, two more things are very important. They played, apart from this, another important role. They supported all the rebellions across the country. We have got evidences to prove that they extended their cooperation for the revolution of the Vijayanagar in 1724. 1799, 1800, Badanur Palaikar Purchi. 1801, Trinalveli. Even in Kattababan's rebellion, the Fakirs' role was there. In 1801 to 1809, Travancore rebellion, it was there. So they participated in all rebellions. And here, one important, I think I tried to tell you, since they were working as spies, they were able to tell the developments to the rulers on time. That's why a number of conspiracies hatched by the British people could be averted, would be prevented. Only one classic example I'll tell you. It will be very interesting if you know this. In 1847, there was an English officer by name Keith. He wrote a letter to his wife. In that letter, he states that the very next day, Eid ul-Azha, the Bakrid festival will be there. And I have met the Hindu leaders in Delhi, Agra and other places. I have told them that these Muslims will, sacrifice cow, which is a holy animal for you. And you must object, you must rise in rebellion against this Hindus, against the Muslims. So that kind of conspiracy I have arranged, and you can get a good news that there will be a clash between the Hindus and Muslims on the very first day of the Bakrid, when they slaughter this cow. Somehow this information was known to a Fakir leader by name Khizar Sharif, Pirzada, he belongs to Pirzada group. He communicated this immediately to Bahadur Shah. And Bahadur Shah, on getting this information, issued a royal farman, an appeal to all Muslims. Please, for heaven's sake, for Allah's sake, this year you need not slaughter cow. And he made an appeal, and that appeal was accepted by all leaders, Muslim leaders in Delhi, Agra and other places. And Keith was here waiting for the outbreak of a clash between the Hindus and Muslims on the pretext of slaughtering the cows. But there was no cow slaughter, no Muslim slaughtered any cow at the time. And there was very peace, and the Hindu leaders also, who were expecting this to cause trouble, to create problem, they were also disappointed. And in the next letter, the same case says that I am disappointed and frustrated because the Muslims did not slaughter cows, and the conspiracy which I hatched was foisted. I do not know the reason who carried this message to Bahadur Shah. But the main person responsible for averting this clash between the Hindus and Muslims and foiling the attempts of Keith was only a Fakir leader by name Khizar Sharif Pirzada. And similarly in 1857 also, apart from the role of Bahadur Shah, apart from the role of the Maulvis, apart from the role of saints and awliyas, we can find that Fakirs played a very important role in preparing the public against the British rule, and we have got a lot of evidences about this. இதை மட்டும் உங்கள் மத்தியிலே வைத்து என்னுடைய உரையை நிறைவு செய்கின்றேன். வாய்ப்பளித்தமைக்கு நன்றி.
Thank you so much, sir, for your thought-provoking and wonderful speech.